What's up? What's up? What's up? Episode 73 of the Standing A podcast. We are here. Ooh, you know what I'm saying? We got too much shit to go over right now. We are here. We are here. We ready to get after it. Episode 73 of the Standing A podcast. I'm your host, Tommy Russ Jr. We got many of our usual suspects in the house. We got Courtney Tanner in the house, aka Burt Brown Sugar. We got my homeboy MG the Great, Mike Gomes in the building. Welcome back, sir. And without any other type of name, we got the First Lady of Boxing, Tiffanie Daniels in the house. Yes, indeed. Hey, y'all know what we got to talk about right now. Y'all already know what we got to talk about. We got to talk about, hey, you know what I'm saying? So this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do, because we already know exactly why you here, what's going on. So Gomes, go ahead and unmute yourself, sir. We know why you made it into here, why you made time for this, because there's only one Tyson Fury. So what's up, man?
I'm squad. Look, all joking aside, I mean, despite me, you guys know my feelings about Deontay for many years. You knew already my prediction about yesterday and from the previous fights. Hats off and shout out to Deontay for a absolute valiant effort yesterday. He was willing to literally die on his sword. There was no quit in him whatsoever. Shout out to him at the fact that he was able to knock down Tyson Fury twice. It could have gone the other way. It could have gone the other way. Tyson Fury obviously is the more skillful boxer. There's no debating about that. However, Deontay is probably the only boxer, I won't say in the history, but in this era, that always has a fighting chance, whether he's fatigued, hurt, or not. It doesn't matter. He's got one of, if not the strongest right hand I've ever seen, if not in the history of boxing, to be quite honest with you. I mean, I put him up there with Sullivan. That's how hard he hits. But as much as I want to give kudos to his valiant effort because of his heart, at the same time, it was another fight in which I feel he got exposed. I don't think Deontay's going to leave boxing because, I saw a couple of people asking like, oh, is he going to leave? He's going to quit. He's going to retire. He lost to the best heavyweight of this era, which is Tyson Fury. So that doesn't merit him retiring. I think he still has a lot left in the tank, although I don't know how he's going to react in his next fight, because he did take quite the punishment in that fight, and he did take some punishment in the second fight. But Deontay is still a super overachiever. Most boxers with his skill set, right, or lack thereof, would never have achieved what he has. In my opinion, he's a Hall of Famer. He's achieved a lot in boxing, and I would love to see him back in the ring as well. I would love to see him maybe face Anthony Joshua. I would pay $89, $100 to watch him fight Anthony Joshua if Anthony Joshua loses the rematch. I would pay another $80 to watch, him versus Tyson Fury for a fourth fight. But I know that for a fact that isn't going to happen. Tyson Fury made it very clear yesterday during the press conference that that's gone. He's not even going to entertain that anymore. But I think there's still a lot left for Deontay moving forward, if he chooses to. He doesn't want to. As far as Tyson Fury, great show. I didn't think that was the best version of Tyson Fury. I thought that it could have been the time off or whatever the case it could have been. It could have been maybe the weight that he had on, but that was similar to the weight he had on in the second fight. I thought that he was missing a little bit of a pep to his step yesterday. Every time he kept hitting Deontay with a 1-2, he would clinch instead of taking a step back and maybe hitting Deontay with that same right hand that ended up ultimately knocking Deontay out in the 11th round. I think that Tyson could have maybe done that a couple of rounds earlier. But at the same time, he's also probably, in his head saying, well, I can't let my guard down because Deontay, fatigue or not, hurt or not, has enough power to knock me down. He just did not long ago, twice in the same round. So, look, it was a great fight. It was probably one of the best boxing matches I've seen in quite some time, from a roller coaster standpoint, because it was a roller coaster ride. And I'm looking forward to watching Tyson Fury probably face the winner of the Anthony Joshua versus Usyk fight, which I think will probably be Usyk, although I think AJ has a good chance of winning if he makes small little adjustments. But I wanted to just let you know, Courtney, I was right again on my prediction. As always. And the Gypsy King was valiant in victory. And also he was very, very respectful. He was a gentleman at the end. I hope that him and Deontay can put their past aside and they can work this out and, become friends at the end, because from my understanding, they were friends when they fought the first time. And I wish that they're friends, moving forward, and they could put this thing aside the same way Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, and Lennox Lewis were able to put their animosity aside.
If you ever beat my ass that bad, we're never going to be friends, yo.
You got to accept it, right? You got to accept it at some point. Yeah.
Man. Hey, so I just wanted to give you a little moment to gloat, Gomes, because you've been
so good.
You've been Tyson Fury all the way for a long time, throughout this whole trilogy, man.
It's, you know what it is. How do you have a guy that comes in looking like a ball, 277, 280 pounds? Mm-hmm. He looks like, if I saw him in a park, I would never ever imagine that he had an ounce of athleticism. And you got a guy that big, right? That lanky, that fat, and he's that skillful. I don't think you're ever going to see that. That's just the reality. He is a once in a generation type of talent. That's just the reality. He's, like Malik Scott. I watched his interview with ESPN News, or with ESPN News, rather, and he said it. Like, he is very, very good. You can't downplay his skill level. He's as good as he's going to get. His timing, his reflex, it's incredible. It really is. If you look at his size, you look at his physique, right? It's almost, you would think that it's almost impossible to move the way he moves. It's hard for any boxer to get in the ring and to fight that guy. It's difficult. And then on top of that, we're talking about, Deontay's heart. He's also got heart too. We saw it in the second fight. In the first fight. We saw him come out in the second fight and prove to the world that he can go toe to toe. And then we saw it again, third fight, getting knocked down twice. And it looked like things may get shaky for him. And he came back and he ruffled his feathers and he went right back in the, toe to toe again with Deontay, and he ended up winning the fight. It's just, as a boxing fan, you just got to sit back and just enjoy it.
Facts, man. Absolute facts. So, a little bit of a post-fight reaction to Saturday, with Saturday night's trilogy between Tyson Fury, 31 wins, 0 losses, 1 draw, 22 KOs, versus Deontay Wilder, 42 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw, 41 KOs. This third affair was all action, and they yielded 5 knockdowns between the two top heavyweights right now. Wilder scored 2 of those knockdowns in the 4th round. After that, the momentum was clearly on Fury's side throughout the fight, as he was wearing Wilder down, leaning on him, giving him that pressure as the fight progressed. Round 10 is when Tyson, not round 10, but round 11, as we saw, was when Tyson would seal the deal on that victory with a pair of knockdowns. The latter being delivered by blitzing right cross. Definitely, it was a solid shot. Referee Russell Mora stopped that fight. 1 minute and 10 seconds left in the round. Courtney, y'all, we go back and forth, for a very long time, sir. Bomb Squad to the socks.
Hey, to this day.
What you got, man?
Hey, you know what? We here at Standing 8, we had to interrupt your Columbus Day weekend. And so I kind of made an executive decision. I was like, we're canceling all cookouts and barbecues and birthday parties and quinceañeras and sweet 16s so we could bring you the following. And that was a hell of a fight. There was no way a fight of that magnitude could go down last night and us not get back on the air. So I'm incredibly grateful and glad that you guys could be on with me short notice. First off, I want to talk about, we got to talk about the winner first. I think all too often this fight has become such a narrative about how thrilled people are to see Deontay Wilder get beat down in the ring that we don't talk enough about Tyson Fury, and his accomplishments. And but going back to touching a little bit on what Mike Gomez said, is that he actually did come in about 20 pounds heavier than he did for the second fight. And he mentioned something very interesting as far as Tyson Fury's physique, what he looks like, for him to be such a massive figure physically, with him being as tall as he is and being as heavy as he is, but also just having the general appearance of being a person who doesn't fit the bill of a boxer who looks completely unathletic. I think the difference in this fight and in this trilogy, in this series, in this rivalry between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder is that you have a guy in Tyson Fury, what he looks like be damned. He's been doing this since he could, since out the womb. You know what I'm saying? He's got parents that named him Tyson. That's not as a coincidence, but Mike Tyson was the champ when he was born. And his parents, particularly his father, at his birth, proclaimed that he is going to be the heavyweight champion of the world, and this named him after the current heavyweight champion at that time, Mike Tyson. So, it's the difference between you've had a skill set that you've been working on from a very, very young age versus somebody as in Deontay Wilder who walked into a gym when he was 18, 19 years old. And the thing that big difference in skill gap, it goes beyond what we saw last night. That goes beyond, that goes to what we saw in the first fight. The first time these two got in the ring together, the difference in the skill gap between these two has been obvious and apparent, and it's been glaring. On that bend, that ilk, it's we've known who the better person is in this rivalry from the jump. It's this third fight had to happen because kind of a play on Wilder's words, the streets needed a body. And I think the boxing public demanded a clear, concise, decisive ending to the talk, ending to the rivalry, and that's what was offered up last night, and that's what Tyson Fury delivered. The Tyson Fury, hate him or love him, one thing you have to say is the dude can box his ass off, and the dude has never not backed up the shit that he talks on, whether it be on social media, whether it be with a microphone or a camera in front of his face. If anybody in this era has talked the talk and then gone out there and walked the walk, it's been Tyson Fury. And I really, at this point, this is completely his era. Yes, Alexander Usyk has 3 of the 4 belts and a claim to share the throne, but I don't think Tyson Fury can really be proclaimed king until he eliminates Alexander Usyk. But I think that's basically just some work that when he gets around to it, he's gonna do it emphatically. I don't see anybody. I don't see anybody relinquishing Tyson Fury of the throne or the crown until he decides to give it up. And the fact that Alexander Usyk is in the way right now, he's more of a pretender to that throne. But when that pretender to your throne has 3/4 of the distinction, he's going to have to handle that. And I hope we see that sooner rather than later. But it looks like as it's lining up, Eddie Hearn made an announcement shortly before the fight that the rematch between AJ and Alexander Usyk has been triggered contractually, and that fight will happen early next year or around springtime. And then you also have the WBC that has already mandated that if the winner of last night's fight does not immediately go and fight Alexander Usyk for a total unification, that they will have to face their mandatory in Dylan White. And then also, unbeknownst to a lot of people, Robert Helenius last night on the undercard, who dispatched Nowaki, he is now the WBA's mandatory. So there's some mandatories now in play and in the picture. I don't think any of them really pose a threat to Tyson Fury. I think from what we've seen out of Robert Helenius last night and what we've seen out of Dylan White, I think neither of those guys is really threatening Tyson Fury. Of course, it's the heavyweight division, and one punch can change everything. But if one punch couldn't change everything in the trilogy between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, I really don't see what they're bringing to the table in terms of that. In terms of where where Deontay Wilder is going to go next, can we conceivably see him sticking around at heavyweight and fighting a bevy of B-class fighters? There's people out there for him, particularly on the PBC side of things. Yes, he's talked about going down to cruiserweight once he had all 4 belts at heavyweight, and then he was going to be the first person to go down in weight and get all 4 titles at cruiserweight. Can he conceivably make a campaign at cruiserweight? Yes. There's also a new subdivision called Bridgerweight that the WBC has out there. Could Deontay Wilder make a splash in that? Yes. But from a personal standpoint, I think he should just go ahead and go away. The human body is not designed or made or fashioned to withstand that type of punishment that he's taken in these last 2 fights against Tyson Fury. And I think we saw it on his face last night in the corner. We saw it always, the ring walk and entering the ring, his mannerisms within the ring. Can some of that be put on him coming in dramatically heavier? Yes. Can some of that be put on him and Malik Scott formulating the wrong game plan? Yes, possibly. But I think overall what it was is that Deontay Wilder is a fighter and an individual and a human being who has gotten his belief in himself and his abilities taken away from him. And a lot of people, they were calling me up and asking me who I got for this matchup, and I was telling them, say, hey, I'm rooting for, for Bomb Squad, but from an objective standpoint, for somebody who knows boxing, who's watched boxing for years, we very rarely see somebody make a full recovery and a full comeback from what he has sustained at the hands of Fury. And I think the writing is on the wall. Not only is the writing on the wall with that, but also Fury has basically put the blueprint out there and published it for mass circulation. In that, if you can get up off the canvas when Wilder hits you with that right, if you could put Wilder on his back foot, and if you can neutralize that right from coming in the first place, Deontay Wilder is an actually easy fighter to beat. And maybe that's easier said than done but I think now we're in a scenario where you can look at some heavyweights that are out there. You can look at some heavyweight prospects that are coming down the pipe right now, and you can pick out some names of people who are fighting at the heavyweight division right now who could possibly do what Tyson Fury did to Wilder last night. And I think if I'm Wilder, that's the scary thing, And if Wilder keeps on fighting, it's not a question of if. It's a question of who and when we see somebody do that to Wilder again. But I think for all of it, he can stick around and he can make a lot more money. But I think Wilder's best course of action is just to go ahead and say, hey, the hat's off. My haters, my detractors, they had to wait 5 years to see it. But yes, I am an overachiever. But with that overachiever tag, look what I was able to achieve. Wilder, he goes down as an incredible record. incredibly entertaining and polarizing figure, an icon within the sport. Olympic medalist. He's got, he's got all the ticks that you can tick the boxes you can tick off for the Hall of Fame. Though I don't necessarily believe a first ballot run, but you got to put him in there at some point. And when you consider the class he goes in with and the people who are getting considered against him, but I mean, I don't think it's inconceivable to see Wilder in the Hall of Fame at some point. But I mean, I think the best course of action is him to hang his hat on that and just go away. Because I think if he sticks around, we see him sustain more punishment, and he becomes a caricature for his detractors, much like Adrian Broner's become. And that's it's sad to see. It's sad to see that, but that's not a knock against Adrian Broner. I've defended Adrian Broner on this program numerous times. I'm on wax with it, but I'm gonna call it what it is. And that, so I mean, the guy's got beautiful children, beautiful wife, lots of money, everything he more than he could have imagined or he could have hoped for when he started this endeavor into boxing. I think he should just ride off into the sunset, or however that's defined. So,
Ohio runs boxing. Shout out to Marcus Null. That was almost like a perfect segue, man. Like, that shit right there. That was a perfect segue because I could see it. I could see it right there. I could see it.
What?
I could see the first lady of boxing was ready to get at it. Tiffanie, what you got? What's going on?
Courtney, really? You see me with this About Billion shirt, you gonna go after AB? Like, what's up with that?
Simply recognizing they got the same set of haters. And I'm right.
Oh, don't come for Adrian Broner. Okay, so last night, actually, that was a great fight. That was a great heavyweight fight. Back in the day when I was a kid, and that was the division to watch, right? The heavyweight division was the division to watch. And last night they gave us a great show. Everything that happened, I expected to happen. I did not expect for Wilder to win that fight. I thought it was going to be a repeat of fight number 2, which it kind of was. Something similar to that. Wasn't as bad as a beating like he sustained in fight 2, but it was kind of like we got to put like a period on this trilogy because it was a lot of controversy surrounding that fight, right? So Deontay Wilder claimed all these things like, well, I got poisoned by Mark Breland and the hand wraps and all this stuff, his outfit and everything else. That's what happened in that fight that caused him to lose it. So it was kind of like for him to redeem himself. So we was kind of hoping that he did redeem himself, and then he switched camps. And I did see some stuff that was a little bit different from the norm with Malik Scott, but I didn't expect from one camp Deontay Wilder to really have anything significant to help him win against Tyson Fury. Dude is just like Jack in the freaking beanstalk. He is huge. That's a big dude. And like what Mike Gomez said, he's light on his feet. And all of these things that Tyson Fury just can't be beat. I remember when Tyson Fury beat Klitschko, and that messed me up when he beat Klitschko. And I'm like, oh man, dude, he's a good boxer. He can really box. So like we all say, styles make fights, right? Deontay Wilder just can't beat Fury. Period. No matter what, he just can't do it. And especially not with what happened last night. They just didn't have the game plan to make that happen. I don't know if the weight thing helped him or didn't. I don't know. You can't really tell because by like the 6th or 7th round, it was like Deontay could get just hit with a feather and get knocked down. It seemed like he had no power. Like everything, he was just exhausted. Everything was gone. But what I don't like is people out here, couch people that never fall. I don't know if you ever went into a gym and did like some type of boxing workout. Man, I probably couldn't last 5 minutes. Like I was out of breath, like literally in pain. Half the people that talk shit, they can't do what Deontay Wilder just did. They are calling him a bum. Man, I don't like it. It's not right. Dude was a bronze medalist. He's got skill. He just can't beat Tyson Fury, period. He got some power. it's some things to be worked on. But let's be honest, Deontay Wilder was how old? 36, 35? Like Courtney said, it's time to go. It's time to go. Get out while you can. Get out while you can still enjoy your family before you really get messed up in the ring, dude. Like, just let it go. You proved your point. You're a good ass heavyweight boxer. You gave us a ton of great fights, excitement. He brought back some excitement. We had a belt in the heavyweight division in America for a while, you know, instead out in the Brits and Vladimir Klitschko and all those people. We had one in America. So I mean, I'm still going back Wilder. I won some money, honestly, last night because I bet on Tyson Fury. I'm not even going to front. My heart was with Wilder, but I knew he was going to lose, period. So I go to the sports bars. I get all the men around and I take your money. Give me the money. I get all my drinks, all my food paid for because it is what it is. It was a great fight. I enjoyed it. It was a roller coaster. But, you know, like I said, Courtney, I think you're right. I think it's time for him to go. I don't think I see maybe Usyk can beat Fury, but let's be honest, these guys are, you know, 34, 35 years old. It's not much more that I'm expecting from either one of them. I think they did their damn thing, and it was a great fight. So hopefully we can see Usyk against Fury. I think that if Deontay Wilder came back, I think Anthony Joshua will be a good fight between those two. I like to see it just to see what will happen, but I hope he doesn't. Honestly, I just hope he just goes on and rides out into the sunset. So that's my opinion.
Hey.
It's the only fight that he has left that if he was going to make some money, that's the only fight that, to be financially driven, that's the only fight really that's out there for him. He doesn't have to. Courtney's right. I mean, he's at the point in his life that he can, this is it. He can leave. He can retire. He doesn't need the money in the sense that he's made more money than he probably ever thought he would ever make in boxing, right? He's a multimillionaire. Let's call a spade a spade. It's a multimillionaire. What's left after this? You know, Floyd had Manny Pacquiao, and we thought Deontay would have Anthony Joshua, and that his foe ended up being Tyson Fury. So there's no buildup to anything else. You know, there's money to be made if there is an AJ fight, obviously. But my only fear here is, you know, and I think Anthony Joshua robbed Deontay from probably being a first ballot, because I think if they actually did fight, right? Let's say it wasn't Tyson, it was AJ, and Deontay fights him. I think Deontay would have beat him. I think Deontay probably would have hurt him, knocked him out. You know, there's a strong chance that he could. We all know that AJ has a weak chin if tested. And then if he went on to fight Tyson Fury, and let's say the outcome was exactly what just happened, I think that we can make a case that at that point, right, if that was the sequence of events, Deontay would be a first ballot for sure. But nonetheless, he's still a Hall of Famer. And I have to agree with with Courtney. He's not a first ballot right now. His resume is not the best. However, he does have Tyson Fury there. He does have that draw with Tyson Fury. He does have Luis Ortiz, right? He has what's his name, Stavern on his resume as well. And he has the fact that he's knocked out every opponent other than Tyson Fury. He's the only guy he has not knocked out, right? That's it. And also we have the fact that, you know, Deontay is full-heartedly responsible for putting the heavyweight division back on the map. And that's just the reality. And I hate to give him that credit, but it's the truth. The truth is people started to get excited. People were salivating out of the mouth because he had that almost Mike Tyson effect where people were coming in and they didn't care. I'll spend the 50, you know, back then it was like $50. I'll spend the $50 on pay-per-view to watch 30 seconds of boxing because everybody wanted to see the knockout. And that's the sort of effect that Deontay, that's the effect that he had over the course of the last 5 years, to be quite honest. So he has, you know, that power. He had that influence over the heavyweight division. You know, it just sucks that now the heavyweight division now goes back across the pond and we don't have any true representation of somebody like Deontay here back in America. But yeah, I mean, look, he doesn't have anything else to prove. He definitely overachieved. He's not a bum, and you're right. People that never boxed in their life, never got into a fight, they have no idea the type of physical attribute or physical condition you need to be able to last 12 rounds in a boxing ring, right? There's a reason why, you know, in Olympics it isn't 12 rounds. There's a reason why, you know, at times it's only 10 rounds. It's exhausting. It truly, truly is. And that's why when you have two big giants like these two guys that are able to punish each other the way they did yesterday and last up to the, you know, very end of 11 rounds, that just shows you what kind of physique they're in. Deontay is in great shape. He's probably in better shape than most. Like, he's in LeBron James type of shape, right? In a sense that for you to take that sort of punishment over the course of, let's say, the last 6 rounds the way he did and still be standing, right? Still be standing is incredible. That's just a testament of how good he is in terms of shape. Digressing for a second, as far as Malik Scott, and I think Courtney, now that I'm, you know, kind of digested what he said, I think that Malik Scott prepared him just to last longer. I think that in his heart, I think Malik knew, and this is based on the interview that I watched yesterday, or actually today. He did an interview at 5 o'clock in the morning. He couldn't go to sleep. And I could just tell by his words, and he got very emotional in that interview, that they basically trained him to just last as long as he could. And it seemed that as if they knew that there was no way that Deontay would be able to beat, you know, Tyson unless he was able to knock him out. And, you know, kudos to Malik, but in my opinion, again, I think that the game plan of having him come in that heavy was off. I thought that he should have came in light on his feet and not be so much on his back foot the way he was. I think the jab, like, look, let's just be honest, jabbing to a body like a guy like Tyson Fury isn't going to do any damage. That's just the reality, right? You got to jab to the face and set up the right hand. That's the only way that I think that would have, you know, worked. And we've seen Deontay do this before in the past where he comes in with a game plan and he shies away. And people are like, why does that happen? It happens because it's very difficult to adjust in the ring. It's not easy. It really isn't. That's why Floyd Mayweather is a brilliant fighter and probably one of the best to ever do it, if not the best. He was able to adapt, right? He was able to, you know, register and digest and make adjustments like that. The ability to make adjustments in a ring is very hard. It's just very difficult. Anthony Joshua, he can't do it. He's got to make the adjustments after the fight, right? Deontay can't do it. There's so many A-class world-level athletes and boxers that just can't make those adjustments. And this is where Tyson Fury, again, this is where I put him at the top. He's able to make those adjustments. He's extremely talented, not only physically, but also intellectually, the same way Floyd is, right? Or was, you know, the same way a very, very select few over the course of 100 years have been in the ring. That's something you cannot teach. You either have it or you don't, you know, and that's why Tyson is so good, or rather, in my opinion, so great. But, you know, I don't want to see Deontay back in the ring because I think that Courtney is absolutely right. The blueprint's out there. And I actually think that now, because of the punishment he has taken, you know, you can have a guy like Dillian Whyte beat him. You know, Dillian Whyte catches him the right way. It's done. If that fight ever got made, let's say Deontay says, I'll fight Dillian Whyte for whatever reason, right? I would be inclined to put a lot of money on Whyte if he comes in as an underdog, because I think that Whyte beats him. I think that he catches him and it's over. And you see that the way his physique is, Deontay's very much like Conor McGregor, another guy who's very talented, but they're too muscular, right? And the way their muscle twitches, once they get hit a specific way or once they get some sort of punishment, right, they get muscle fatigue very quickly. You know, and that's what you see with Deontay. It's not that Deontay, like when people are like, oh, he's not in shape, or no, he's in great shape. It's just that he's just too muscular. And that's the reality. And we've seen it many, many times. Guys that are very muscular don't end up being great boxers. They really don't. It's just the reality of it. If you have too much lean mass, it tends to work against you. And we've seen this repeatedly over boxing and over MMA. Same exact thing. But I hope that he just takes himself, focuses on his wife, his kids. He does have a beautiful family, like Courtney mentioned. You know, and I truly think that Deontay taking away the personality that he has in the ring, which I think that a little bit of that is very much to Floyd Mayweather's, I guess, ego, is just for the ring, and that's it. I think behind closed doors, I think that there's somebody different. I think he's a great father, obviously. I know that a lot of the success he's attributed has been because of his daughter and her illness that she suffers from. And I think that there's much more to him other than boxing, and he's got plenty of money for him to live the rest of his life the way he wants to live. And, thank obviously the boxing gods and heavens that he was able to come in and make such an impact, with such little skill set, in the sense that, he's not as skillful as a lot of fighters that we see right now in the heavyweight division, but he's done a magnificent job at sticking to what he's really good at, which is a strong puncher. And he's made that a success over and over and over, the same way Triple G did, right? Triple G is very technical and very fundamental, but from, an ability or skill set, I don't think he's not the biggest athlete out there when he was fighting in the middleweight division, but he relied on his power and he used it to the best of his knowledge, the same way that Deontay did. But like I mentioned, hats off to Deontay. He has nothing to be ashamed of. At the end of the day, Mike Tyson ran into something. Vander Holyfield ran into something. Many guys ran into something that they couldn't overcome, and that's exactly what happened. He found his foe that was bigger and better than he was, and that's it. It happens to everybody almost.
Listen, I'm gonna get my take on the whole Malik Scott thing, because I think it's way simpler than a lot of people are giving themselves credit for actually realizing. With Malik Scott, I think him choosing Malik Scott, it was never about Malik Scott as a trainer. I don't think it was ever about Malik Scott as anything that Malik Scott could teach him or give him. I think Malik Scott was the person chosen because they had an agreement that, hey, you're going to be in my corner. This is for the optics. You're going to be the person who, as my homie, I'm going to talk, is going to understand that no matter how bad it gets, you don't throw the towel in. I think that was all that was about. I think were they working on things? Were there some suggestions made in the camp with Malik Scott to where he could improve Deontay Wilder? Sure, but I think all that was about was basically, hey, you're in my corner. If it gets bad, don't throw the towel in on me. You know what I'm saying? And as far as Mark Breland, I understand people's outrage on that because of the egregious things and talk that followed the second fight with Tyson Fury, and the claims that were made. That was beyond below the belt. That was slander, pretty much, to where he said that Breland drugged him or did other things in the corner or whatever. Me personally on that, though, is like I've said before on the show, is I don't think Breland responded appropriately to that in his own defense. But why? Maybe he was just taking the higher road. Maybe Mark Breland strikes me as a very quiet and private guy, so maybe he just didn't want to be out in the media with that, even if it was defense on himself. And I think the public pretty much scoffed at that, and we all know that was that's probably 99.9% not true or whatever. But also, speaking on Mark Breland and Deontay's relationship with with Breland, is I don't think Breland gave him as much as a lot of people would like to believe. I think Breland was very he was never vocal in that corner. There would be sound bites and clips in Wilder's camp of Breland holding the mitts for him or speaking to him over his shoulder or whatnot. But I think the only real constant that's who has been there for Deontay Wilder as a corner presence has been Mark Dees, and that was the person who basically ran a rec center in Louisiana and convinced him to come and give boxing a try or whatnot. And we all know that basically Mark Dees is as far as boxing knowledge or what he can give anybody is pretty limited. In that he was just basically a good Samaritan, a community organizer, and a person who got a lot of kids off the street out there in Alabama. And Deontay Wilder took him along for the ride. But I mean, if Deontay Wilder has had trust for anybody as far as a cornerman, it's been Mark Dees. Hey, but but other than that, and then Mark, with the disillusion of that relationship with Mark Breland, is you have to look at it like this: Mark Breland was an employee of Deontay Wilder, and Mark Breland, in Deontay Wilder's eyes, violated company policy when he threw that towel in. Even though we all know that was for his benefit, we all know that Mark Breland probably should have been there last night to throw that same towel in. We probably already know that even though Wilder will never admit to it, he can fully appreciate now what Mark Breland was trying to save his ass from. But I don't know why it was ingratiated into Wilder's mind that that's what he wanted to give us to cap off that trilogy or whatever. But as we were saying, as I was saying before we went on the air or whatnot, I think Deontay Wilder knew coming into that fight from the moment he accepted, the moment he pressed for the third fight, the moment he put pen and ink to paper to sign that contract, from the moment he walked into the ring and raised his hands, that he was not going to win that fight. For him, for me, the sense I take from that, it was never about him winning that third fight. It was basically about him going out in that third fight on his terms. And I think, when he recovers and whatever, I think that's going to be Wilder's narrative, is that, I'm saying, nobody could stop me from going in there and trying to fulfill a destiny, even if, it had a completely horrible outcome or whatnot. But I mean, I think we got to be grateful that, with Wilder, with that being his intent, that didn't go way, way left for him. And that he wasn't severely injured in that fight, but he can't do that too much longer. He can't do that again. And if he stays in boxing, he's got to have a corner that can legitimately protect him and give him tools. And I don't think Malik Scott is it. I think he was just there to serve one single purpose. And I think the relationship he had with Mark Breland was never as trusting or as strong enough to where Mark Breland had his ear and could tell him anything or give him instructions that he could utilize. So I mean, I think if with all our talk of the scenario if Wilder fights on, I think he's going to seriously have to find somebody in his corner who could serve as a trainer, who he can connect with, and who he can actually learn something from. So,
wonderful thoughts. Hey, there's a lot that has bled into this whole entire thing here. This trilogy, everything that's shaking up and shaping up in the heavyweight division right now. So one thing that I found pretty ironic was over the course of several different years of us seeing Wilder fight, we knew that, years and years and years ago, like they showed the video of, Lennox Lewis showed this man years ago how to throw a damn jab. Like he showed him years ago. I found it very ironic that during the pay-per-view, that surfaced before the fight. That surfaced before the fight. And Lennox was there. And they played that video. Brian Kelly was surprised. He didn't even know that was damn Deontay Wilder in the damn video. Like that is something that was always missing. I got to say, I know, Gomes, like you said, you felt that game plan kind of going to Fury's body wasn't the greatest game plan. I mean, I feel that for somebody like Wilder that has those struggles with trying to adjust in the ring after he gets hit a few times, I feel that initially I was happy. Like, just being honest, I was happy to see that, because it wasn't like the jab. It wasn't the jab to the body. It was that right where he was throwing that powerful right and straight forward, almost kind of like how Floyd gets down when he hits you right in that center body, and stop you. I felt that was actually putting something in the bank, and also opening up what we knew was going to happen, which was that damn telegraphed right hand. We knew he was going to telegraph that thing and bring it all from all the way back here. We knew that. I feel like that it kind of opened it up. I feel that if he didn't start the fight off with that, we wouldn't have necessarily seen Fury, go down a couple of times. If he would have just came out with the same exact game plan that he's always had and didn't go to the body, which we scream about almost every single fight that he fights. Like, dude, go to the fucking body. I feel that wouldn't have opened up him being able to telegraph and come with that right hand over the top, because everybody already knows that that's what he's going to come up with. But I do think that, as we saw in the fight, Fury is extremely intelligent, as we already know. He super smart dude, ring IQ, ring generalship. Like, he's got all of that. He's like the fucking Rodman of boxing. Like, he will be in your head, and he's in your head long before the fight even starts. And I feel that that is what really did him in. I also said pre-fight, as we all talked about, the weight, that extra 20 pounds. Like, I know I made a joke about it pre-fight, but this dude, he's carrying 20 extra pounds, which seemingly was pretty much muscle, but he's carrying 20 extra pounds. I said, I want to see what he's looking like 4 to 5 rounds into the fight, because he's got to carry that shit for all of those rounds, just like we talked about, being in that ring for 12 rounds, period. But with 20 extra pounds, like this, like it was a running joke that carrying a fucking costume to the ring was an issue, let alone carrying 20 extra pounds, moving around, throwing these punches. We know how much it takes off of your stamina to miss punches, especially when you telegraph haymakers. Like, carrying that 20 extra pounds on top of what we've discussed, Fury being 277. I mean, Fury probably came in the ring like 290, and he's and leaning on him, as he said, as we saw, online pictures, his statement just saying, like, I don't know what happened. Like, this dude was, he just leaned on me and took my energy. Yeah, and you had 20 extra pounds on top of it. Like, Fury was in his head. He already knew what the game plan was and what to do. So I feel like that, that body game, if he would have been able to adjust in the ring, might have actually still helped him, and I feel that it did help him in the beginning of the fight, because the beginning of the fight may not have even been as close as it was had he not started off dedicating to the body, which he never, ever does. One thing that I do want to point out here, shout out to Manny G. He pointed out, if he fights and beats a combo of Ruiz, Joshua, or White, I think he has a strong Hall of Fame candidacy. So we've talked about, go duck out, things like that. I do think that, if he is going to continue and fight on, I honestly feel like Ruiz would be a good fight for him to take.
I think that's the likeliest scenario. I think that might be. I think there's a strong possibility we could see him fight in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Come home, a comeback fight against Ruiz, Ruiz is Ruiz. Yep. And Ruiz isn't who he isn't, but he come back with one last fight in Alabama in front of his home crowd, beat Ruiz, and use that as, hey, I went out beating a former world champion. I think that's a very realistic scenario that we could see.
So I feel like it would be a 2-part deal, to be honest. I think that he would fight Ruiz. I feel that he could beat Ruiz, possibly go ahead and knock him out. And the way that everything is shaping up right now in the heavyweight division. So we've got, Hearn announcing the rematch with Usyk and Joshua. My honest opinion early on, I feel that Usyk beats him again. So now Joshua, you're off to the side. You're no longer in the Fury, unification undisputed fight. So I feel that if Wilder go ahead and fight Ruiz, beat Ruiz, Joshua loses his second time to Usyk, I feel that that would be his last fight. That they would try to pair that up and then have Joshua and Wilder be his final fight. And regardless of how it goes out, it would end up still being able to be a pretty marketable money fight that he could go out with. So
I don't think you're going to see that at all. I think his camp's going to tell him don't even bother facing. I'm tired right now. He loses against or he's going to lose against Ortiz if he fights. Ruiz. If he fights Ruiz, he loses.
I don't know. I mean, hey, you know what? I think the thing that Ruiz does have going for him that makes him very dangerous for Wilder is he's in camp with Canelo and the Reynosos. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So you know what I'm saying. And with Eddie and Chep, and Eddie and Chep.
If you could hear me, so we'll wait for him to come back. But what I'm saying is, I think he's taken enough punishment that a fight against Ruiz is probably not the smartest.
Uh-oh.
Hello? Hey, am I still on?
Yeah, you still on.
Okay. But I was saying, yeah, with Ruiz, with Eddie and with Eddie and Chepo Reynoso.
We lost you. Yeah, we lost you guys for a while. We lost you guys for a
while. I think you, bro.
Yeah. I lost you.
No, me and Tiffany were on.
Hey, go. What you got?
Yeah, me and Tiffany were still on. I'm saying that I think a fight against I think Ruiz is probably a bad mistake for him because I think Ruiz has a good chance of beating him. He's got quick hands. Ruiz does have speed. Sorry, I thought I lost you guys. Ruiz does have speed. He has quick hands. He's got power as well, right? And I think that after again, we haven't assessed the damage that Deontay has taken. Here's what we can say. There's no way he's the same fighter that he was when it was Tyson Fury, Deontay first fight. He's not the same guy no more. You know, that's real punishment that he's taken. And I think when he faces a guy like Ruiz, who is championship caliber, if he decides not to be a slacker at the gym, I think you could see Ruiz beat him. You know, he doesn't need to. He doesn't need to fight anymore. He's good where he's at. And if I'm him, I'm saying, you know, if you want to go out, ride on a sunset, fight a B-level fighter, knock him out, tell your fans, thank you, congratulations, or rather, thank you so much for the support. I'm leaving. I'm spending the rest of the time with my family now. And that's what I think you should do. Right. That's in my opinion. That's to me, if I'm his, you know, his manager, if I'm sitting behind him, if I'm the guy he respects, right? Nobody knows who it is. I don't know who's the guy that Deontay leans on for advice. We can only assume. But if I'm that guy, I'm telling him, D, you're gonna fight a guy that you're gonna knock out, and you're gonna go home, and you're gonna call it a day, and you're gonna look at something else after boxing. You're gonna look forward to something else, whether it's your family, maybe being on TV, right? The same way Andre Ward is, whatever the case may be. He should not fight, in my opinion, he should not be fighting the likes of Ruiz. He should not be fighting the likes of Anthony Joshua. He should not be fighting the likes of anybody in the top 3, top 4 right now. Or top 7, top 8. Just fight somebody that he knows that he's going to dispatch and let him go home. Let him retire. He doesn't need to. He doesn't need to prove anything. I don't know. Ziff, I don't think he's 36. I think he's already older than that.
He's 35.
35. I think he's 35.
He's 35.
Where did you go play ball across seas? I bet he could dunk. I bet he could dunk.
Get in the big 3.
But I mean, as far as my response, I don't know if I was on air for this or whatever. But just speaking to what Michael Gomes is saying, I think Andy Ruiz is what makes him mainly dangerous, not only for Deontay Wilder but for anybody in the top 10 right now, is that he's in camp with Canelo and he's enlisted the services of Eddie and Chepo Reynoso. And we already know, as far as they've brought a new level to the game as far as with Mexican fighters and whatever, and they've made that style a little bit more cerebral. And I think that pairs well with what Andy Ruiz is already naturally good at, as far as his speed, his hand movement, and the way he's able to be deceptive in the ring. So I think that does make Andy Ruiz a dangerous opponent, not only for Wilder but for anybody else in the hovering around the top 10 in the heavyweight division right now. I think though The main disadvantage or advantage I would see for Wilder is I think Wilder is fully capable of hitting them with that same shot that AJ hit Ruiz with at Madison Square Garden, and that put him on the deck before he got up and put major damage on AJ. But I think if Wilder hits him with that same punch that AJ did, I think there was no way that he's getting up from that. So I think I think Andy Ruiz is still very susceptible to that. I think Andy Ruiz, in his last fight against Chris Arreola, he still wasn't the most improved prospect, even though he had made the change. And Andy Ruiz he's coming off knee surgery. And there's a lot of reports coming out of the camp that he's operating with bad knees and he has bad elbows and a lot of issues as far as with being injury prone and things that might affect his physicality in the ring. So I mean, I think it's an intriguing matchup. I think I think it's a viable one and a realistic one. I could see if Wilder was going to come back and fight a going away, a one-off going away fight, or fighting a fight to gauge that, to see if he still got it. But I mean, ultimately, like I said before, if it's my preference, I would rather see Wilder just go ahead and retire after this. But I mean, if speaking of what Manny G was saying, is if he gets Ruiz on his resume, it doesn't matter what Ruiz has become or whatnot. It matters what he was more so, in that Ruiz is a former heavyweight champion who had 3 belts. So I mean, I think if they're looking for Wilder's legacy, Ruiz is probably a very marketable opponent to put on there. And we might, they might do something where they build up to a fight with Ruiz. You know what I'm saying? There might be a Charles Martin in the way there. There might be a Robert Helenius in the middle or something. So you never know.
Hey, you're right about that one. Well, Gomes, you got something?
No, I mean, I was just simply going to say, and you're right. I mean, I didn't realize, I forgot about the knee problems with Andy. But then again, and I know power is the last thing that really goes when it comes to human being. But the main question here is, how does Deontay, how is he in the ring after this loss? Not just physically, but mentally. Because I think physically and mentally right now he's going to be drained, right?
He got smacked. It's eyes. It's in his eyes, and I don't know. And I think the biggest thing is that Fury who invokes that in him, or is that just in him ingrained now? That I think that's the biggest intangible.
Yeah,
and I agree with you, because when I watched him walk into the ring, and when he was in the ring, he was never, like, you could tell he was anxious, he was nervous, you could tell he was moving around all the time, and then you have Tyson Fury, very calm, very poised, and that plays a problem. Like that is like mental warfare when you see your opponent who's so calm and then you're nervous inside, and all these thoughts are running in your head and you can't control those thoughts. And I think that's what Deontay was going through, yesterday night. And and in addition to the skill level that Tyson Fury has, how much of the mental warfare got to Deontay, because Tyson Fury stepped it up this past week and this fight with the name calling him a dossier, sausage, every possible name you can possibly, even to the point where when they got to the arena, he was talking about his mother, like he literally 20, 30 feet away said something, your mother, that's what, Tyson was pretty nasty, which I understand why Deontay really didn't want to, shake hands at the end. But I also understand why, Tyson Fury was the way he was because of all the allegations of the cheating, et cetera, et cetera. But, you're right, Courtney, before when you mentioned that probably not going to become friends with somebody who beat the shit out of you, in a fight. But I don't think that we're ever going to see the same version or even close to the same version of Deontay as we've seen before. And yeah, I just checked 35. He is turning 36 in about 2 weeks. I think it's over. I don't. There's no need for, like, what's the point of him going back to the ring to fight Ruiz To what? For a potential bout or potential championship fight in the future? Like, for what? You're not going to get that until you're probably close to 40. It isn't going to happen. Like, and I don't think he's going to be advised to step back in the ring, to be quite honest with you. I think everybody in this camp, including his own wife and family, but Deontay being Deontay the way he was yesterday.
Gonna fight.
Say that again, Courtney?
I said you fight who Al Heyman says you're gonna fight.
True. But when it comes to a person, even Al Heyman has to take a step back and make the right, make the right decisions, right? Nobody wants that under conscience. But look, I appreciate you guys letting me be, back on today. I got to take off. I have 2 little rugrats that I have to drive another hour and a half back home. It was a great fight, probably one of the best boxing fights I have seen in quite some time. The real winners here was the boxing fans, right? We got an absolute show, just an amazing performance by both fighters. And, there's still a lot left in the heavyweight division. I'm just sad that we probably won't be able to see Deontay, at least not at a competitive level in the championship boxing world again, in terms of fighting for a belt. But I am happy that Tyson Fury is the champion. I think that we still have a good 4 or 5 years left, and there are a couple of people in the heavyweight division that could potentially, match up good with him in the future. Not right now. I think that he runs through Usyk if they were to fight right now. If he comes in weighing 277 pounds, he's just going to batter Usyk, right? That's what he's going to do. Look at Usyk, the way he came out of that fight. I know he beat AJ, but he came out pretty battered in that fight. Just imagine what Fury can do. I think Fury is very underrated when it comes to his power. I think people don't realize how much power he really, really has. And yesterday was a testament of how much power he does. He doesn't have the same power as Deontay, but he's got enough power to lay anybody out. He's underrated when it comes to that. But gentlemen, ladies, or lady, Tiff, always a pleasure seeing you on the call. Thank you very much. Have a great night. And I got to say it one more time. Bomb Squad. I suffered for many years. All right. So now for many years I suffered. All right. Till this day. So I got to do it. All right, guys. Enjoy. Have a great night, everybody.
Yes, sir. MG the Great. Tiffanie, you got final thoughts before we move into another one?
I just kind of agree with what everybody has said, and I did listen to that Malik Scott interview on ES News, and he was saying that he thought that everything that transpired between the second and third fight was just an emotional roller coaster for Deontay, that he really never really got a chance to relax and really reflect on what happened in the second fight. And so that could be a big reason why it turned out, some of the reason why it turned out the way it did. And maybe if he goes to like somebody like Virgil Hunter, maybe Virgil Hunter can help get them together for a different type of fight with somebody else. Teach him how to move his feet a little bit, work the jab, and do some other things that he hasn't been successful that we've seen. But like you said earlier, I seen him when he first came out and he was hitting to the solar plexus. I was kind of excited about that, okay, I see some different things happening. So I was hoping it was going to kind of continue on, but it is what it is. It was a great fight. I'm not taking anything away from Wilder, and it's hard to give Tyson Fury credit because everybody was just so zoomed in on like, what is Wilder going to do? Like, is he going to redeem himself? So shout out to Tyson Fury for the win. It was a great fight.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% correct. Tyson did what he needed to do to get in there and dispatch, Deontay Wilder and solidify, what this trilogy has been about. And as it's been floating around, we've had a couple of different, takes and views. Some may have seen like some of the things that Clarissa Shield, was talking about, with people talking about Wilder, but a lot of people and the majority of the masses are most definitely giving Deontay Wilder credit for his heart and what he did in that ring. And as Courtney alluded to earlier, this is something that he already had set. He had said after that second fight, like, I did not get to go out on my shield. I did not get to do this myself. So if I'm going to take this loss, I'm gonna take this loss the way I need to take it. And he did that. I mean, and to be honest, I mean, immediately after, so many of us fight of the year. Like, he delivered what he needed to deliver as a warrior, as a champion, and as somebody that, a lot of people will see as someday, a Hall of Famer. So, much respect to both fighters and what they've done, for boxing and the show that they put on yesterday for all of the boxing fans, pundits, and all of the likes. Courtney, what's up?
Hey, before we transition into the next topic, though, I'm gonna put it out there. I'm gonna keep manifesting it to the real. I said before then, somebody is going to upset the apple cart, and AJ and Fury are not going to be able to link. I'm saying it now. Now they're gonna link. AJ will beat Usyk, and AJ will beat Usyk, and we will be talking about Fury. AJ once again. I guarantee it. I'm on wax. Hey, see it.
Wax.
Hey, touch it. Manifest it to the real. Hey, right here.
Oh shit, son. We got you on wax, baby. Yeah. Hey, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens with it. I mean, that's the fight. I mean, ultimately, that's why. That is exactly why Eddie Hearn made sure that he put that out there during this pay-per-view. He wanted everybody to know, like, no, we want Joshua to get that chance back so we can get this fight going, because I know what's happening tonight. But let's try to get this. Let's get this sweet Caroline rolling, real strong. They played it early on this one, but you know how it gets. So that would be a major fight. So we will see what happens with it, man. But let's talk. We got Crawford, Porter, November 20th, Paradise, Nevada. Let's talk about this, man. Like what just super early, we're going to get into this much more as this month rolls on, as we get into November, but what's your thoughts when it comes to what we got here? Because this is going to be a phenomenal showdown. I feel that this is going to be, any fight with Porter is always an exciting fight because of just his awkward, unorthodox style, his rough, rugged style. It's always a phenomenal fight, that we're going to see, and we already know Porter himself. We talk about Hall of Fame. Porter already has a Hall of Fame resume. We talk resumes. A lot gets said about T-Bud. So let's go, Tiffanie. What you think just early on? What you feeling about this one?
I usually roll with the people from Ohio. Sean Porter's from Akron. I'm from Cincinnati. But I know a lot of people in his camp too. I know a lot of people in his camp right now, and I gotta go with Bud. And I'm sorry, Sean Porter. He makes everybody look horrible. Like, man, he makes everybody look bad, man. He comes in, he comes game to fight. It looks like he always trains to the level of who he's fighting. So, like, you can see the difference of how he fought Errol Spence, versus how he fought, Keith Thurman. It's just, I think he just elevates himself every time he comes in and fights, and he always gives a great show. He never gives up. I love his attitude. He's rough. He comes in like a football player. He used to play football. He was a big dude. And
big linebacker.
He comes in like a linebacker. He comes in with, he's wild. And anybody that comes to a press conference with a shirt on, no shirt and a vest, man, you got to watch that dude. But I'm going with Bud. That's my number one pound for pound fighter. I don't see anybody beating him outside of, like Floyd Mayweather and Andre Ward. Bud is one of the people that I can see that can make adjustments in between rounds, based on his boxing IQ. So I don't see that it's not going to be anything that Sean Porter can do that he hasn't seen or that he can't adjust to. So I don't see anybody beating Bud Crawford. If Sean Porter beats Bud Crawford, I'm deleting every bit of social media I got. I'm telling you right now. I'm going off. I'm cutting everything off. I promise you.
Oh man. Yeah. Hey, we're gonna see what happens with your social media. Hey, Burt Brown Sugar. What's up, man?
Hey, I got one statement for y'all, yo. Brooks Brothers, because I feel that Porter is tailor made for Bud, and it's as Tiffanie just said. Porter makes everybody look terrible. Porter makes everybody completely uncomfortable in that ring, and I think that's why he's tailor made for Bud, because Bud is just so damn rugged and nasty and diabolical and just evil in that motherfucker that's where he thrives. I think I think with Bud, he loves it when that oven is cranked up in that kitchen and there's four burners burning and there's nothing but fried chicken and pork chops in that mug. And I think that's the kind of fight that Porter knows he has to bring in order to have a chance. And I think that's the kind of fight that Bud is counting on in order to make his statement that he is ready for the world at 147. In that world being very limited, particularly Errol Spence. I think I think Bud is coming in there. Basically, this is the fight he screamed and asked for. In that he just wanted to cross the street. He wanted to be in there with the best heavyweights, the best 140, the guys at 147, and he got his wish. And I think he's ready. I think he's ready to deliver on it. I think he's ready to silence the detractors who say he was just over on the top rank side of the street, just collecting easy paydays against Mickey Mouse opponents. I think Bud is a dude who internalizes a lot of pressure. He internalizes a lot of the negativity that's in his life and that comes that way, and he makes it hell on people when they finally get in the ring with them. And I think it's going to be one of those fights. I think one of the advantages Porter's going to have is that I think Crawford is going to be rusty because by virtue of him being out of the ring as long as he's been. I think Bud is definitely going to have to make some adjustments. But I think once he does, it's not going to be pretty. And so early on, I'm predicting a late round stoppage for Bud.
Hey, I'm right there with you, dude. Because just like you said, he's gonna have to make some adjustments. But we know that's what Bud does. So when we talk people like Lomachenko collecting data, right? Like that's something that we know that Crawford does, but we know when he's done with that data and he starts processing that data, the dog comes out. And it's going to be a very eventful time when that dog does come out because of Porter's style, because of how rough he is, because of how wild he can get, because he's going to be a wild dog in that. But that's going to be one of the most dangerous things that you could do in the ring with somebody like Terrence Bud Crawford, because he's going to systematically go for it. He's going to systematically dog you. And I also feel, I don't feel that it'll be too late. I feel that, I'm thinking 9, maybe 10 at the latest.
Because you cannot be that open.
Yeah.
It's Crawford with your head down. You cannot be that open. And the thing is, too, is, okay, we already know this is a game of inches. This is a game of adjustments. This is a game of being able to think on the fly. I don't see anything Kenny Porter is going to be able to give his son that's going to get him out the frying pan. On the other end of that ring, though, you got Bud in there with Bomac and Isai Gallegos in his ear. Like that's dangerous. It's going to be too nasty.
Yeah, exactly. Like I just think that when it's all said and done, There's going to be, and so, you know, we see it a lot, you know, especially with experienced veteran fighters. You know, they know when to clinch, you know, and Porter, his style is already very, you know, crowdy. Like he'll crowd you really good, and he throws short punches when it comes down to that. But he also throws a lot of like looping, like, you know, he's trying to do all in those moments. That's where Bud he's going to be dominating him with all of that wide open space. When he's getting wild like that, it's going to be cracking at that point. And that's going to be nasty. It's going to be dangerous for Sean Porter. So, yeah, I feel that it's going to be a very, very exciting fight. But I think, you know, just me being honest, I feel like we know what's going to happen here. You know, Tiffanie said it as well. You know, she's Ohio all the way, but she know what's gonna happen here. So
hey, Ohio can still run boxing. It's just not gonna be that night.
Not that night.
Right.
Not that.
I'm gonna
night.
try to get a Sean Porter autograph before it happens. Right? I'm talking all this shit. Let me get an autograph first.
Oh, so hey, just one time, real quick, before we know what's gonna happen.
Right.
But hey, you know, he might you know, after that fight, he might start dressing right. You know,
I don't like those outfits, man. I swear it's horrible.
he might get some fashion knocked into that ass. You know what I'm saying? Like we'll see. But you know, hey,
and as I'm talking all this shit, I'm looking at the blinds in my kitchen to see if Marcus Knox sent some jump boys over to my crib. You know, so you know, it got kind of testy the last time we had him on the show. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, it was like.
Hey, we shout out to Marcus. No,
Marcus, no.
We love you, bro. Hey, before this fight happens, we gotta get Buddy back on the show so he can get it cracking with us, because it's always gonna be a good time when he's on. Absolutely. But most definitely. So, hey, episode 73, the Standing 8 podcast. Tiffanie Daniels, you got some parting shots.
All I'm saying is I can't wait till this fight to come up. But I got to shout out my homeboy, Jamel Herring. He got a fight coming up against Shakur Stevenson. I'm rooting for my dude. Let's go, Mel. I got your back, bro. I hope he was fighting out of Cincinnati. You got to rep Ohio. So I know he's originally from New York, but he's in Ohio. So got to shout out my boy, Mel. And I'm just looking forward to these next few fights that's coming up. It's been exciting. Last third to fourth quarter of the year for boxing, so it's a treat for fans. So let's go.
Hey, yeah, the most definitely shout out to Jamel Herring. He was in the house last night. He was in the house sitting next to Mario Lopez, getting their pictures on and all of that shit. You know, he was live during the whole event. Yeah, absolutely. Ohio in the building, representing Tiffanie Daniels. Absolutely appreciate you as always. The first lady of boxing. And without further ado, Courtney, we give you the podium for your Oscar.
Hey, you know I do the Oscar. Yeah, you know. Accept this speech, yo. Hey, thanks again to the First Lady of Boxing, Tiffanie Daniels. Thanks for coming on with us. A shout out to Marcus Holnall in Ohio Runs Boxing. Hey, want to give a shout out to Manny G, Manuel Guevara for coming on with us. A shout out to Michael Gomez. It's been a while. It's been too long, but it was an honor to get back on and rock with you. Hey, wherever you're at, shout out to Aaron Sorial, the mastermind, the brains behind the operation, always making this possible. The guardian angel of this movement. Also want to give a shout out to Nick Angarame. Want to give a shout out to Sean Cameron, Killer Cam out there, talking massive amounts of shit, yo. Hey, I'm sure Vengeance is very sweet. I'm sure Vengeance is very sweet out there in Brooklyn after what we saw last night. I want to give a shout out to Chris Ramos, and Antoine Wilkes. Julio G, our esteemed alumnus Daniel Pena, D Rock, where you at, baby? all our partners, man, and all the movements that are rocking with us from Gary Kittleson, everybody from Jets Boxing, Anthony Saldana, Sean Hicks, everybody at In Vivo who shared the mic with us and blessed us, last episode. And basically, we just want to show, hey, it's all love. We always want to show love. And thank you all for locking it down with us and allowing us to invade and interrupt your Columbus Day weekend. Y'all be safe out there. The pandemic's still raging. Get vaxxed, mask up, be safe, love one another, and support boxing whenever, and always. Support the movement. Bring a friend. Bring two. Bring your mama, your brother, your sister, your dad, your auntie, your baby mama. Everybody, let's get it cracking. We love y'all. Thank you.
Boom. Hey, look, mic drop. Hey, man, as always. Hey, and just one last shout out. You shouted out In Vivo, but shout out to Sean Hicks, who had who did his podcasting before dinner the last time, and he was on his Grizzly shit, and what did he say? I choose chaos. And we got fucking chaos during this fight. So shout out to that man, because, you know what I'm saying? Like, he chose chaos, we chose chaos, and that's what the fuck we got.
Hey, Joseph Correa, Hector Franco. Hey, we see y'all. We love y'all.
Yes, sir. Front Proof Media. Hey, absolute wonderful episode here. We're going to keep it grinding. We're going to get back at it. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful last quarter of the year for boxing. We're going to have plenty of great fights going on. So we're going to be right back at you. We're going to be dropping that heat. We're going to be exchanging these pleasantries and getting into these war words, as my man Courtney would say. We're going to be getting at it. So Standing 8 Podcast, episode 73. Appreciate y'all.